For those of us with kids, especially with multiple kids, there's always one of them that, let's just say, enjoys the five-finger discount more than others. There's a little bit of thievery going on as you're leaving the checkout lane at Kroger. Sometimes they end up with a few extra candies in their pocket, if you know what I mean. I've got one such kid, and the last time this happened, it was about a year ago, where there ended up being some Tic Tacs in his pocket. Don't know how that happened. I had to come up with a new angle on how to approach stealing. And so what I said this last time is, hey, buddy, your honor is worth exactly 88 cents. I want you to think about that. Your honor, you traded your honor, you left it in Kroger, is worth those Tic Tacs, which are 88 cents. I'm making that up. Their Tic Tacs are probably more expensive than that now. But it made me think, shoot, man, what is my honor worth? Where have I cut corners? Maybe you as well. Like, where have you cut corners? It could be tax returns. It could be chilling at work when you should be working harder. What is your honor worth? That is a question of integrity. And I want to say something about integrity, because when I say that word, and I want to get somewhere with this, we throw that word around a lot and we kind of apply whatever definition we want to it. We know integrity is a good thing, but like, what does it mean, right? Maybe it's honesty, maybe it's character, maybe it's, if I say the word integrity, you feel guilty because you might lack it. But that's actually not the heart of the word integrity. And I think it's actually really cool. The heartbeat of integrity is oneness. An integer is a whole number, complete in itself. It can't be fractioned. To integrate into something is to take, or to integrate, many things is to take many and turn them into one. If you are integral to a sports team, it means that your team is not complete until you are there. So integrity is oneness. If you are a man, if you're a woman of integrity, there is a fierce oneness to you. There is a wholeness. There is a completion. The person of integrity is not fractioned. They are not distracted. They are not fragmented. There are no divisions. There are no asterisks, no secrets. He is not, two-faced. There's no brown-nosing. There's no deceiving. This person is who he or she is, no shadows, very singular. And that is the opposite of how we act most of the time, but especially as we think about the church today, we have lost this singularity at the corporate level, and I think at the singular level as well. And so I just want to expose that. I want to critique, and I'm looking at myself the foremost, but then I also want to lean into, man, how we do this, how we take some steps forward, because we are all fragmented. None of us are truly people of pure integrity. The only true man of integrity who ever lived was Jesus. And I don't want to think of integrity as a characteristic, but let's do a little paradigm shift and think about integrity as a discipline. That we are to walk in the ways of integrity, that there are rhythms to becoming and being a man or a woman of integrity. What did Jesus do in his humanity to hone his integrity? What were his rhythms? What were his habits? It's actually a really, I think, incredible way of thinking about Jesus, paying attention to how singular he was and is. He ruthlessly devoted himself to his Father. Get this, never once did Jesus get distracted or fragment from within. Can we say the same thing about us, or us, capital U, as we think about the church? I want to get there in a second. But first, let's focus in on Jesus, which is maybe what we need to be doing more often. John 15:19 says, "So Jesus said to them, 'Truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, that the Son does likewise.'" The word only, right? That is the most integrity-based word in the Bible. Only. What does Jesus do? Only. Singularly. What the Father does. I think I got that word right. Singularly. And why did Jesus come to earth? Well, Hebrews 12:2, Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. The longer Jesus lived, the more integrated he became on his purpose, his sacrifice, the cross. And I don't mean that he was ever like wavering on it, but he had to zone in. He had to hone in. We get Luke 9:51, that when the days drew near for him to be taken up on the cross into death, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. So we know that Jesus does what the Father does only, and that the more and more he approached his death day, Passover, on that third year of ministry, he got more and more singular on dying. The prophet Isaiah says that Jesus would set his face like flint. Luke's travel narrative unravels until Jesus is in Jerusalem, and directly after his arrest in Gethsemane, he's taken to the first phase of the illegal trials, and there before Annas, the former high priest, they're accusing him of ridiculous things. Look at how Jesus responds. Oh, I don't have a slide for it. I'll say it. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. Jesus answered him, I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues in the temple where all Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Jesus is saying, I've been open. I am who I am. There is no shadow to me. And there's not one of us that can say that. But truly, I think the absence of integrity is an epidemic right now. And I want to expose that. Look at this. That there's some stats that I hope we can read. 13% of Americans said that they see the Ten Commandments as binding today. 13%. 91% confess they lie regularly at work and at home. A third of AIDS carriers admit not telling their lovers. The majority of workers admit to goofing off at least 7 hours per week at work, which is essentially a full day. Half admit they regularly call in sick when they were perfectly well. In a survey, the question was asked, what are you willing to do for $10 million? This is a little bit frightening. 7% would kill a stranger. 25% would abandon their families. 23% would become a prostitute for a week. 80% of executives confess to driving while drunk, compared to 33% of general public. And 35% have cheated on income tax reports. So that's just a little maybe sample of where we are as a culture right now that has no doubt bled into the church, which is so unfortunate. And I think it's why we are seeing so much of the lack of unity and the lack of like triaged truth today in these times. Man, you even think about Peter, right? Who denied Jesus 3 times when it came down to it. Talk about disintegration. It kind of gives a new meaning of disintegrate, right? To become many. Men fragmenting is nothing new. But Jesus is calling all of us Christians towards integration because he himself was integrated. The kingdom of God is not just entrance into heaven. It is a training ground to become like the king. The kingdom is a training ground right now to become like the king. And it is a kingdom of grace. Grace enables hard work. Like Jesus, we are to become men of integrity, women of integrity, to be people of completion, integrated people. But it is a battle. It is a discipline. And I want to phrase it as a war. In grace, we war to win this. We war for oneness. And as the church, I don't think we've been warring for one. We have warred against each other. We have warred in improper ways and methods towards non-believers. And so I have a couple thoughts. And the first, I want to kind of phrase this is, and really just to get a little bit personal, is I want to say we have a war against straddling. And what I mean by that is, so where it always starts trying to keep a foot in 2 different worlds, living 2 different lives. This is us personally. Think about the Vikings for a moment. I love the Vikings. My mom is a full Dane. And so I grew up kind of pretending to be a Viking. I'm not. But if you knew about the Vikings, it was Christianity that ultimately stopped their raids. There's something about the gospel that keeps us from murder and from robbery. But there was a time of overlap where Christianity kind of came in, but yet the Norse paganism was still there. Vikings basically just adopted Jesus into their pantheon of gods. And so we have some some awful, I mean, hilarious if it wasn't so serious moments where Helgi the Lean, he said, on land I worship Jesus, but at sea I always invoke Thor. Okay, that one's, kind of funny, but it shows both worlds. This one's a little bit more serious. Or King Rollo, he was a baptized Christian, and before dying, by the way, Christian, before dying, he made certain guarantees concerning the afterlife. So he kind of hedged his bets. So at his death, King Rollo, to Jesus, donated 100 pounds of gold to the church. To Odin, he sacrificed 100 human prisoners. Now, my question to you and my question to myself is, where do you straddle? Where in life do you, like, how would you fill in the blank? I love to follow Jesus, but when I'm blank, I don't. When I'm alone doing blank, I don't follow Jesus. When I'm with blank people, I don't. That's where we are to make war. Wherever it is you feel convicted, wherever it is, it just kind of surfaces, man, this is where I'm lacking integrity. This is where we've got to press in and make war. Satan tried to get Jesus to straddle during the temptation, to act independent of his Father, to provide for himself some bread because he was fasting and hungry, but Jesus quotes Scripture and stays one. I do only what the Father does. We have some incredible pictures. I think that the second thing I would say, and this is for us as denominations, us as church, us as local churches, us as Christians, is we must war against spiritual disintegration. Okay, so we know we have, Anakin, what happens to him? Through good intentions, trying to save his mom, he becomes Darth Vader. We have Smeagol, who, I don't know if he had good intentions besides just wanting a birthday present, turning into Gollum. We have beautiful Isengard turning into, what Saruman turned it into. And this is absolutely a picture of disintegration. This is when one becomes fragmented. And I think this is, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm not trying to critique. I'm trying to keep this personal to myself. But this is a little bit of what we're seeing in the church right now as we war against each other and as we war in wrong ways towards non-believers. I think we have lost sibling status. I think we've lost human status. In some ways, we demonize each other to no end. And it's on the smallest of things. And I think we also act like kids often. And I know I'm being mean. I'm sorry, but in every decision, pay attention to your own heart today. I know none of us as adults want to pretend like we are kids, little boys and little girls. But in every decision you make today, there's going to be a path that kind of opens up. Pay attention to this. You're going to act like a man, act like a woman, or you're going to continue as a boy or as a girl. You're going to integrate or you're going to fragment. And again, I have 3 boys, okay? And so that are in my house right now. And let me distill boyhood. I'm assuming girlhood. We live in strong community with a bunch of families that have girls. And here's what I know about my boys and about myself if I'm not careful. It's all about them. Everything is a freak out. And when in doubt, whine. Those are kind of the 3 rules to being a kid. It's all about me. Everything's a freak out when it's not about me. And when it's not about me, when in doubt, just whine. So I'll ask you that question, and I mean it for myself as well. Is it all about you? I think we as Christians, especially us with a microphone in front of our faces, have to ask, man, is it all about me? Am I really that smart? Am I really that wise? Is it really worth me coming after other Christians and just fragmenting? Now, I've done videos on the very complicated but very necessary relationship between truth and unity. It's got to be both. But, let me ask this maybe a little bit more with a sting. Why do you keep making it all about yourself? And I'll pretend this is a mirror right now. I ask that question to myself often. Why, Justin, are you okay with everything orbiting around you, your preferences, your beliefs, your styles? As I look at other Christians who have different leanings, different preferences that are not essential, it's killing us. And if we make this theological or if this is the liberal, evangelical, fundamentalist, Republican, MAGA, Democrat spectrum, like so important, so crucial, but even some of those distinctions are so different than others. And we have just lost it. We've lost our minds in so many ways. And we've got to fight, yes, but we've got to be smart in how we're fighting, in who we're fighting, and in why we're fighting. So I want to kind of wrap this up, and I want to do it. Like, where do we go from here? During Hitler's Third Reich in Nazi Germany, 1933 to 1945, there was a Christian hero named Helmut Thielicke. He kept his integrity in a time when most Christian pastors did not. You've probably heard of, Dietrich Bonhoeffer and so forth. Here's what he said. The avoidance of one small fib may be a stronger confession of faith than a whole Christian philosophy championed in lengthy, forceful discussion. I think that's our step forward, guys. Your refusal to spiritually disintegrate is actually the most missional thing about you. How you handle temptation when nobody is watching, and that is the most missional thing about you. And God, even though that is a quiet, private moment, in God's economy, it is loud and clear. And so my call is, our next step is to avoid the small idiot things and allow our lives to be championed not by these lengthy, forceful discussions maybe that I'm doing right now, but to go love people, to love people who are different, to love people who are difficult. That starts with us as the church. It extends to those that are outside of the church. We are to love them. And really, it starts looking in the mirror and being honest, like not just loving ourselves, but looking at it and be like, dude, I got biases. I've got preferences. I've got issues. And I'm just going to naturally disintegrate if I'm not careful. And so how do I become like Jesus in being singular and being one? We are all disintegrated people, but Jesus can handle that. He knows what to do with fragmented people who faceplant. That's what grace is for. That's what the cross is for. And I think we can gain back integrity. It starts with the mirror. It echoes out to our families, to our church, to our denominations, to our different flavors of Christianity, to the entire kingdom, and then to those on the outside as well. Is the church ripping at the seams? Have we lost all integrity? No. But I do think we need to get really intentional about reclaiming ground that we have lost because of ourselves not acting like Jesus. So I'd love for this to be not a end all to, man, I nailed it. Like, we figured out integrity now, but can this be a springboard in a great conversation down below in the comments? I'd love for that to happen. Maybe more videos in the future on this. Like this, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.